Welcome back to Survive and Thrive. And today I want to cover a company that is in the biotech industry, and that company is Novavax, ticker symbol NVAX. And it's a company that I covered almost 3 months ago now. And I want to give everybody an update on the latest news, where I think they may be headed, and if this is a good company to invest in, or if it's one that we should just continue to hold. Before I get started, I did personally invest in Novavax back in March of 2020 when the pandemic really took a toll on the economy, and my cost basis was around $10 per share. And you'll see as I get into coverage on this company where they are at currently. Starting with this first Motley article, why Novavax stock is sliding today. Investors aren't convinced the biotech has a solid long-term outlook. So what happened? Shares of the vaccine specialist are having another rough session. This is as of March 4th. Specifically, the biotech stock is down by 8% as of 1 p.m. Eastern Time last Friday. What's causing investors to hit the exits today? Despite an encouraging fourth quarter earnings report earlier this week, Novavax can't seem to shed the perception among some investors that it simply won't be able to compete effectively during the rapidly approaching endemic phase. So what's important to understand is that the endemic stage of the pandemic will be characterized by considerably lower infection rates worldwide. By extension, the commercial opportunity for all vaccine makers ought to be markedly smaller than it was during the acute phase of the viral outbreak. Novavax in turn might experience a hefty downturn in annual sales after this year. Speaking to this point, Wall Street's most optimistic revenue forecast has the company's top line declining by 18.7% in 2023. Now what? Is Novavax stock a buy on this latest weakness? On the bull side of things, Novavax shares are now trading at a meager 2.3 times Wall Street's low-end 2023 revenue estimate. That's cheap no matter how you slice it, so there's definitely a solid buy case to be made for this mid-cap biotech stock. Then again, this moody market is taking no chances when it comes to future revenues. As such, it might be a good idea to wait to buy shares until the company reports the first batch of data for its combined coronavirus flu vaccine later this year. And we also have to keep in mind that they have been FDA approved for their phase 3 Nanoflu vaccine, and so that could come into play later in 2022 or 2023. So that is something to watch out for, because they do have a path to accelerate approval and be able to start distributing that as well. If we jump over to Yahoo Finance, Novavax 2022 could be a transformational year, says analysts. And while investors might have been disappointed with NVAX's latest quarterly results, Jefferies analyst Roger Song thinks a transformational year could be in the cards for the vaccine maker. While next few Qs, commercial, regulatory, clinical execution remains key, we could start to see big promise coming to fruition, the analyst opined following the Q4's print. That is despite misses on both the top and bottom line. Revenue declined 20.5% year over year to $222 million, falling $109 million short of the consensus estimate, and net losses widened significantly by 377% year over year to $846.3 million. So a very significant downward result in their last report, and it will be interesting to see as we move later through this year if they're actually able to follow through on production and fulfilling doses for the countries that they have approval with, to see how that will affect their overall revenue as well as the share price. However, the company provided its first ever sales guidance, expecting between $4 billion and $5 billion in 2022. While at the midpoint, the figure is slightly below consensus expectations of $4.7 billion. Song thinks it is not only achievable, but conservative with upside potential. So that will be something to watch here over the coming months. And we know that they just gave their Q4 report, and so it's going to be another 3 months before we hear from them again. So we would expect to hear something in the May-June timeframe, and at that point we'll see just how well they are doing with production and following through on their commitments with the different countries out there. The company also said that there could be upside to the current revenue guidance, with US EUA approval likely. Additionally, a BLA is planned for the second half of 2022. Novavax will also shortly file EUAs for the vaccine's use in pediatrics across the globe, as well as booster shots, and seek health policy recommendations. To support the US filing, the company intends to move forward with the phase 3 booster study in the second quarter of 2022. Song also thinks there's an underappreciated opportunity in Novavax's flu CV19 combo vaccine, which could be a big differentiator in the future market, particularly as CV19 evolves into an endemic disease. And I think the other aspect that Novavax has going for it is that they also have a different method for their protein-based vaccine that is not mRNA, and so it could be looked at as a safer alternative for those that haven't got vaccinated or aren't following through with boosters because of some of the negative aspects that they've heard about the major vaccine providers out there. All in all, Song sticks to a buy rating, while his 198 price target implies shares will climb 130% over the coming months. 5 other analysts have been tracking Novavax's progress over the past 3 months, and barring one skeptic, all are positive, culminating in a strong buy consensus rating. There are plenty of gains projected too. At $210, the average target suggests the shares will yield returns of 149% over the 1-year time frame. So I know that this company has gotten their share price to almost $300 per share. I do think that with just a few positive catalysts that they can get there again, if not more. And for me personally, if we get to that point, I may be looking at a complete exit or a significant reduction in my position today. But for me, it can be a little bit different because I did buy at such a low cost basis. So no matter what, I will be making a profit. It's just by how much. Here in Investor Place, Novavax is a buy on recent developments and cheap valuation. Recent developments for the stock have been positive. We talked about the filing of the emergency use authorization in the US. More filings to come after a late stage trial indicated 80% effectiveness with this vaccine against the virus. Nonetheless, the recent sluggish price momentum for NVAX stock is due to several factors. In a move that will undoubtedly disappoint investors, Novavax delivered only a portion of the 2 billion shots it planned for by 2022. The company also delayed shipment dates in Europe. It is clear that while some good progress has been made over the past year, especially considering how quickly things grew at first glance after launching, there are still some areas where they need improvement. Novavax's vaccine has advantages over other vaccines on the market. It uses a few similar technologies from an older generation that were formerly in use, making it more trustworthy and safer for people to take, as I touched on earlier. It makes it more likely to be accepted by consumers who are already comfortable with these products. Investors should keep a close eye on what Novavax is doing. Given the last manufacturing issues it encountered regarding vaccines, the company faces significant risks. Share performance could turn sour if there's another lag. However, if you are risk tolerant, NVAX stock is an enticing prospect. Now, Novavax is making some exciting progress. Novavax has seen its investments grow exponentially since entering the coronavirus vaccine race. The biotech leaped into focus during the pandemic when the US awarded Novavax $1.6 billion to cover a potential vaccine testing, commercialization, and manufacturing. The Gates Foundation also gave Novavax money to develop a COVID vaccine. The Novavax story last year got more complicated. The company is expected to gain US regulatory approval, but manufacturing issues caused a further delay that pushed back its timeline. After resolving these production issues, Novavax finally applied for that FDA authorization. So it says here that the vaccine sales are a major factor in share price, and I think that, as you've seen, for any of you who have followed these vaccine manufacturers and developers closely, you'll see that any news, whether positive or negative, can have a significant impact to their per share price. The business is in a critical transition, but it could be worth the risk. Novavax stock experienced issues due to markets cooling on vaccine stocks, but investors need to keep one thing in mind: the vaccine race is not over. Many parents are hesitant about giving their child the vaccine Out of the 40% polled, a large percentage agreed to get vaccinated through traditional methods, which are still effective against this virus. That is a major plus point for NVAX stock. Going into the rest of this article, the billion-dollar industry waiting to be tapped. While it's not likely to make significant revenue for the company in high-income countries, initial target countries are countries that pay less. As demand for the product grows, Novavax could become an important player in international markets. And that has been something that their CEO has really focused on, is the international play. And I do see that that does still have opportunity, but we will see if they are able to actually produce on that. Novavax inked an agreement to deliver 200 million doses of its vaccine across Europe by 2023, and the US invested in the company by placing an order for 100 million doses. What are the risks to the bull case? Novavax uses cells from insects to develop vaccines. It's able to do so at a much faster pace than if it was creating them with chicken eggs. Some government agencies are excited about this technology and have seen promising results. Unfortunately for investors, the stock is still volatile because of some high-profile declines. When the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation invested $89 million into the biotech company in 2015, they expected more than just one vaccine to come out. But it's been difficult for Novavax. Almost 30% of their workforce has lost their jobs after the failure of the company's vaccine to treat the respiratory syncytial virus. In 2019, it seemed like all hope was lost for the vaccine manufacturer, Novavax, when its respiratory syncytial virus RSV vaccine failed to work. However, it turned things around by announcing a reverse stock split that allowed it to avoid the threat of a delisting on the Nasdaq index. Despite the company's declaration of confidence, it has previously acknowledged that they may not effectively produce its vaccine in a timely enough manner due to global demands. According to the biotech, shortages with raw materials negatively impacting manufacturing efforts, so that created delays. Considering these issues, risk-adverse investors might find this one too volatile. And like I said, for me personally, because of the cost basis that I got in on, which was very low, then no matter what, I should make a profit unless they completely crash and go back down below $10 per share. And so it is a long-term play, and I will continue to ride this roller coaster until I get to a point where I've made a significant return on my investment. Can Novavax stock make it big time? Novavax sounds like a promising company, however, there is still some risk involved. Last year's manufacturing struggles are still fresh in the mind of investors. However, if you're willing to take that risk, then go ahead. The vaccine rollout has been moving smoothly, though there have been instances in the past where vaccine distribution has slowed down due to serious issues. NVAX stock will continue to suffer if this happens again. The company also faces potential delays in its quest for authorization from US authorities, which could cause problems with sales growth at a sensitive time. There have been a lot of losses, but they could turn around if they were granted authorization. NVAX would be a great investment despite these risks. If you're an aggressive long-term investor, they recommend buying shares of this company. Novavax has had a lot of great near-term catalysts that could make its stock rise. These include approvals, production rollouts, etc. And that's why I'm going to continue to hang on. I do see that if they can come through on their revenue results and meet that $4 to $5 billion in 2022, that could really create a huge boost for their per share price. And if that does happen, I'll be watching very closely to see if it's an opportunity and really compound on my wealth. Finishing out this video for today, let's take a look. The last time I covered this company, and that was in December of 2021 at around $160 to $170 per share. So they've come down significantly since then. If we look at just within the last 6 months, we see that they're down 73%. So quite a substantial slide, and can cause a lot of fear for investors, especially depending on when they came in at their entry point. Like I said, I'm going to continue to ride this out, see where they're headed, and if they can actually deliver on their promise with their revenue, production, the multiple country contracts that they have out on delivering doses, as well as potentially the Nanoflu to be able to address that And another option is the combined Nanoflu and COVID shot. So if all those things come together, I do see us well over $200 per share. And so only time will tell. I will continue to provide updates in the next few months. So as always, if you've gotten anything good out of this video, please hit that like button and help me continue to build my YouTube subscriber community. I'm at almost 150 subscribers, but the only way to grow that is with each and every one of you. Hit the subscribe button, turn on that bell, and follow me in this journey to financial freedom. Until next time, don't just survive, thrive!